And we are live.
We're back.
Hello. Welcome, Brandon, again, and everyone to our first ever episode of 2021 of mobile app redesign for developers. We made it. I know, guys, we have missed a couple weeks, but we were trying to get everything just right to get started. And sorry for the delay today. 2021 has been a challenging year for us to start, but we're here and we're ready to
Right.
get back on GitTrends.
It's been
So
a hell of a January.
yeah, I mean, it's always like that, right? The January, at least for me and work, it's always like the most intense year because you come off the break and everybody's like trying to catch up and stuff. Like
Right on.
how has it been for you, Brandon?
For me, work's still pretty chill.
Mm,
Like at Microsoft, most folks take off the majority of the month of December, if not the whole month. And it's mostly just because you get a couple weeks for holidays. So like the last 2 weeks are holidays with Christmas, New Year's, and then
yeah.
most folks realize they haven't used all their PTO yet, so they'll just burn through it. That kind of takes out December. And so, yeah, the
Yeah.
first week back for us in January is usually pretty quiet. Everybody's just kind of catching up on emails, kind of trying to remember what you're supposed to be working on. And yeah, I think things will start ramping up this, I guess, next week, not this upcoming
Yeah.
week. But yeah, it's been pretty quiet. It's nice. I've been able to work on some of my own things and get caught up. Like I didn't have any meetings today, so I got all caught up on my to-do list, all the stuff that you're like, I'll do that later. Did
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah, and I saw in my email was blowing up this afternoon with you like coding away and get trends. What were you
Oh,
doing there?
huh? So there was this weird bug that I've noticed. It has been around for a while, but I couldn't reproduce it and I couldn't confirm. But basically, if you set a repository to be one of your favorites, for some reason that would disappear. And
Oh.
so, yeah, like I would open up the app, I don't know, a couple days later, and then like the repository I had set as a favorite was no longer a favorite. And it's one of those things that I was like, I'm looking at the code and like, I don't get how this is happening. Trying to
Yeah.
reproduce it, I couldn't reproduce it, and kind of just chalked it up to, well, I'm always working on the app, so I'm reinstalling it on my phone all the time. That must be what's going on here because I can't figure it out.
Yeah.
And today, I figured it out. Because I got a push notification that said that one of my repos was trending, and so I tapped onto it, and the app launched, and I had no more favorites, and I was like, oh, I bet I know what's going on, and it was the background service. So the app will check to see if you have any trending repos in the background. So even if you're not running the app, the app's closed, it'll run that background task as long as you're on Wi-Fi and you have enough battery. It'll check to see if you have trending repos, and if you do, that's when it displays the notification. And what I found was when I fetch that data, I also save it, and I did that on purpose to kind of basically cache the data. I figured if I was gonna run in the background, I might as well save it to the database or update the database with the latest values anyways. But when I was doing that, I was overwriting, or I guess wasn't declaring whether or not it was a favorite. It was just taking that raw data from GitHub and saving that to the database. And so
Yeah, and I
when,
remember you did the push notifications before we added the favorites. So at that time, it was
right.
okay because we didn't have that scenario, right?
Yeah, because back then it was just it was all just just the raw data from the GitHub APIs. We were just kind of caching locally so that maybe you open the app on a plane, there's no Wi-Fi, then it can just pull the latest values from the database, and with that background process, it'll be more or less up to date. But yeah, if you take that raw data, there's a nullable bool called isFavorite, and by default, it's null. So when the data comes from GitHub, that value is null, and then it's the user that toggles whether or not it's a favorite to set it to true. And yeah, so basically that background service that is helpful was also overriding the favorited repos in the database. So kind of, it was just that perfect storm today where I pushed out a blog post. We'll just say recently. I forget if it was this week or last week on a library that I created just for GitTrends. I created this NuGet package called GitHub API Status, where you can just install this NuGet package, and in one line of code, it'll tell you whether or not you have reached GitHub's maximum API limits, because GitTrends depends on the GitHub APIs, but the GitHub APIs only let you make a certain number of requests per hour. And we figured that all out when we were developing the app. So that's kind of old news, but I ended up needing that functionality for a tool I made internally. And I was like, you know what? Why not put this into a NuGet package so that anybody can use it? And so I published that NuGet package, and let's see. Where was I go with that story? So I published the NuGet package, talked about GitTrends in there, and it was, let's see. Oh man, not sure I was going with that story, but but yeah, basically today what happened was the push notification came in to let me know that repo was trending, and it was, oh, that's right. Brought myself back. So because I had just published a blog post about this NuGet package is an open source repo, I had set that repo as one of my favorites so I could monitor the traffic and see if it got any stars, see if it got a bunch of views from the blog post. And yeah, so when I got that push notification today, it launched the app and it wasn't favorited. My GitHub API status repo wasn't favorited anymore. And I was like, okay, I know I favored that. I haven't touched the app in terms of like testing, debugging, anything. It's like, oh, the push notification triggered the background process, triggered saving data to like caching the data to the database. I'll bet that's where it is. And yeah, so just like one line of code, easy fix, but never could have tracked that one down before if I hadn't had these like perfect alignment
and
of
I
events.
think it would have been hard for someone else that like haven't worked with that feature specifically, right, in the app, to find the bug as well, because you noticed it because you were the one that coded it, you knew the reason that you had behind the service. But like if my case, I would not think that the service is doing that because I've not seen the code recently, right? So I would like have so many rounds around the bug. But yeah, that's it's just like those moments you get like you always have that bug in your mind, and you're like, you have it and you're like, okay, what is the issue? And you just go sleep on it, and eventually 1 week pass, and then you're like, wait, this is the fix.
Yeah, well, especially with these background processes, they become really tricky to test and debug. I mean, the nice thing in iOS, you can literally just run the background process in Visual Studio. So you can set it to be like your startup project is the background fetch service, which is nice. But yeah, those are tough because usually it's the operating system that triggers those background processes, and there's all sorts of rules that iOS and Android have around it because they don't want your app burning up the phone's battery life, and so they'll batch all the background processes together. They'll make sure like they'll try to run it when the phone's plugged in and on Wi-Fi. They'll make sure not to run it for like unless the phone has been inactive for a couple minutes, couple hours, and it's all very obscured. Is that the right word?
Yeah. And
we don't have any insights as developers. Apple and Google just basically say like, yep, like here's kind of the guidelines, but we're going to choose when to run these background processes for you. And you're like, okay, but I want to run it every hour. And they're like,
Yeah.
we're going to choose to run these background processes for you. Like, all
Yeah,
right.
and that's something important to notice. Like, it's something you present yourself when you get to this step of the project, right? You want to your client asks you that your app should each 10 minutes do some random check, and they want to maybe trigger push notification or do something, and you're like, yeah, about that, we can actually do the service, but I can't guarantee you that it's actually going to be 10 minutes exactly, right?
Yep.
Because then you come upon everything you're saying with the how the operating system is handling it. And it doesn't matter how much you want to try. As a developer, as you say, we have our limitations. So we're just like, okay, you have to find ways to work around that, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, if anybody's curious, you can check out the source code for how I did it in the in GitTrends. But because I was just seeing so much inconsistency with when iOS and Android would trigger these background processes, what I ended up doing is I send a silent push notification to the app. So
Yeah,
the
I remember.
yeah, so iOS and Android both let you send push notifications that don't appear to the user. And they're just typically used for like payload data. And probably the most common one, if people ever use the Facebook app and you've ever launched it and it's already like up to date, you didn't have to do a pull to refresh, didn't have to load anything. That's because we can send the app payloads of data in the background so that you're good to go when you launch the app. And so yeah, that's what we're doing for GitTrends. I am sending a push notification, a silent push notification to everybody once an hour, I think on the top of the hour. And that is enough to wake up our app. And I can tell it then run this background service, which looks for any trending repos. And if it finds any, it actually sends a local notification, which is a whole other thing. Because yeah, there's local notifications and there's also push notifications, but
and
yeah, we're kind of hacking
and
the system here.
but I would say, like, after you knowing this solution you implemented and everything, for me personally, I think if we after I thought about it a bit, it makes a little bit sense of why they're trying to restrict us to have all these background services directly in the
Oh yeah,
operating system, right? Because if it's a background task, right? That's why you have a backend and you have the server, you have all this stuff happening in your backend, right? So I mean, we're using it. You're supposed to use it for the payload, but also it will make sense to just trigger those events directly from the backend, right? Maybe you have a middleware or something, and you want to trigger something and handle it that way. I think it's way more flexible and helpful for your project instead of like having
yeah,
all this local stuff running, right?
yeah, and probably the biggest thing for me was I didn't want to. Well, the biggest thing is security. So I didn't want to save your GitHub personal access token anywhere outside of your device. And so when I was thinking about it, I was like, if I was going to run all these tasks off device, well, when you register with GitHub, I would essentially need to save your GitHub token on one of my servers on the back end. And then, yeah, I could use that token to check to see if you have any trending repos. And if you do, then send a push notification. But I'd rather not. I think it can definitely be done. It can definitely be done securely. But why risk it? You know what I mean? Like if somebody's giving you access to all their private repos, they need to be able to trust you. And hopefully everybody does trust us. But the good news is, yeah, that token, that GitHub token that you generate when you connect to GitHub never leaves your device. So none of us could ever see it. It's not saved anywhere on any server. So there's no way for, say, like a hacker to break into the database and get access to your GitHub token and then see all your private repos. Or
Yeah.
actually, I don't even think we access private repos anymore or ask for private repos anymore with the token. I think it's all public repos. But anyways, Yeah, it was just again another layer of security that we didn't have to worry about. So
Yeah, and in the end, if we have not won the argument with all our explanations, we have the best answer for you guys. The code is totally open, so you can go and
right.
check everything we did. And you can trust us just by looking at the code.
Right. It's totally open source.
Yep. Let me put the link to the repo here for our viewers. Maybe we have some new viewers that have not been following us on the series. So I'm putting here the repo in the Twitch chat. Oh, I also see here in the chat we have one of our loyals back. We have Ricardo there saying hello, guys. I'm back. Yeah, welcome
Welcome
back,
back.
Ricardo. We're happy to have you. And we also have Jimmy Nectar. He sends thumbs up. So yeah, should we do? I mean, get right into it, right? I
Yeah.
think we should probably start with seeing like for 2 minutes the mockups again, and then since it's Friday, we're gonna go straight into live coding and give them a little bit of a recap of what we're gonna be coding today, right?
Sure.
So
We
let
might
me go.
actually.
Yep.
And I think we have some work to do on the about page still.
Oh, in the mockup, you mean?
Yeah, let's pull it up. Let's see where we left off. I know
Okay. Give me one
in my
second.
mind, we only got about halfway through it, but let's check it out.
Yeah. Let's see. GitTrends. Did I get to upload the latest changes to the repo? I need to check.
I don't think so. I think I went looking for it over the holiday, and didn't find it. Okay, no, we did do a lot. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, we finished it. At least I think we finished it. Yeah. Oh, that's the thing. I think we were so excited that it was almost 24th that when we left, I just forgot about uploading it. But yeah, I'm gonna do that after we finish today's stream, so everybody
Cool.
can have the updated Adobe XD project. So let's zoom in right here, and let's see our little to-do list here. What we wanted to have in our about page. And okay, so we said that in our about page, we wanted to have a brief summary of what GitTrends was. We wanted to have a link to the project of the repo, right? So people could hop in right from the app into the repository and go see the code and maybe post a request for an issue. That's why we also wanted to have a link to like suggest new features or bugs. Here we made a design decision, right? Instead of writing request an issue, which is how you're gonna request a feature as well, we prefer to put request a feature to be like less pessimistic, I would say, right?
Yeah, I mean, like the people who know, you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
they'll use that to report a bug, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's
This looks more happy.
Yeah, and this way we're not like, we know there's tons of bugs in this, so
Yeah.
help us out. It's more like, yeah, if you want something new, go for it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the whole idea is because this is a totally open source project that we want to encourage more people to contribute. So that's why we're highlighting all the contributors here, so that if and when you do contribute, you'll see yourself. We haven't done anything yet. We haven't written any code for this, but what I'd like to do is also make those tappable, so anybody can tap on your, I guess that would be an avatar, and then they'd be taken to your GitHub profile, and they can learn more about you. And then also with the libraries, it's this app wasn't built from scratch by us without any help. Like, this is definitely built on the shoulders of giants, and so we want to give a shout out to all of the awesome libraries we're using. because we couldn't have done it without them. And also, if you're curious and you're looking to make an app from a legal standpoint, a lot of licenses for these libraries require attribution. And so we have done that in the GitHub repo. So this is all open source. So you can see what libraries we're using. We've added them to the README to also kind of shine a spotlight on them, encourage folks to check them out, because maybe there's one you haven't heard of before. But then but obviously we're adding them here to the app, but the moral of the story is if your app is not open source, you should also have a list of the libraries you're using. You can always check the licenses for these libraries, and I'd say probably 95, 99% of the time, unless you're paying for the library and you have a paid license, then part of the free license is just say, hey, give us an attribution, give us a shout out, let the folks know when, this app isn't huge, so it's unlikely we'll get hit with a cease and desist notice from lawyers, but something to think about, especially if you work at a big company that could be a target for lawsuits. Just throw a list of the attributions for your libraries in the About page. It's good for everybody. Everybody benefits,
and it's
except
good.
the lawyers.
Yeah. It's good also to stress on this because recently, like before all the WhatsApp thing, like when they announced their new policies they're gonna use and stuff, I was curious on seeing like if they had maybe this section of licenses and like that general information, and I found that even WhatsApp, they're using open source libraries for supporting their app, right? So they have a section where they have licenses, and you can see all the GitHub projects that they have there. So yeah, guys, not even the biggest apps out there are safe from this. So make sure to have your little section in your app just to give a shout out and just to put the licenses there, because I mean, in the end, all of this is free and it's hard work. A lot of people have put into it. So sometimes you get the cease and desist. It's not much because of the money. It's just because like you have to be also like kind of grateful for the work of others, right?
Yeah. And I'll say it's also like from the other side, like as a creator, right? Somebody who's like, I've made NuGet packages and I have a bunch of open source libraries. Mm-hmm. I've never felt inclined to go after anybody. But I did see something weird. Actually, I think I found it today. So this code is all open source, so anybody's welcome to go fork it, clone it, do whatever. But I found somebody who downloaded the code and then uploaded it as their own project on GitHub. And that definitely rubbed me the wrong way. I mean, they haven't touched it. I don't see them doing anything with it. But they renamed the library to Xamarin is the name of their GitHub repo. And so I think it's just somebody that's like learning how to code and probably learning how to use Git. They're probably not familiar with forking, but yeah, that's the case. Like if they had taken the app and then just maybe changed the color scheme and uploaded it to the App Store under a different name, then that's when the licenses really come into play, right? Like that's when you go to like Apple or Google and you lay out your case for them, and that's where stuff kind of starts getting real. But most of the time, like in the open source community, everybody's just there to help everybody else. Nobody's gonna really hunt you down. But unless you're doing something to like abuse it or maybe claim it as your own, like could you imagine like if somebody uploaded our app and started like charging $10 for it?
Oh my god.
Like now you're making money off of our stuff. Like that's a big no-no. Like I would come after you for that.
Yeah, because you know how much we have stressed that like we literally have no intention of putting like advertising on this or like making like monetizing it, and then just someone comes and takes the code and start doing everything
that's dumb. You should monetize it.
Exactly. They're watching the stream, they're like, oh, free product for me. Okay.
Yeah, actually, that was something. I mean, not necessarily that extreme, but I was kind of curious to see if or what GitHub would do with their app, because GitHub launched their first iOS and Android app around the same time we launched GitTrends, so early last year in 2020.
Yep.
And one of the first things I thought was like, oh man, like they can basically just do what we did.
Yeah.
And on top of that, our code's all open source, so
Yeah.
they can literally see how we did it and then just like bloop, dump it into their app. But
Yeah.
so far, I haven't seen anything from what I call the Insights tab included in the GitHub app. So there's nothing about views and clones or your star history. It's more of like a productivity app. Like they want you to use it to review pull requests, to open up issues. Maybe there's like a line of code or two you want to check out. But
I mean, and we can
it's
always
mostly like a
dream.
management app.
We can always dream and assume that just the PM of GitHub just said, "Hey, they did a great job on the insights. Let's just leave it be and leave the users that want the insights to go to their app, right?" We don't need that section. They're doing a good job.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Although I would assume our app would have a lot more users if that was the case.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got a couple hundred, but I would bet the GitHub official app probably has a couple million.
Yeah. So I will
No.
also like to remark here in the libraries, coming back to this, that make sure, guys, you do not limit this only to technology libraries. Remember also in your app, you're using graphic resources, right? You're using icons, you're using images. So believe it or not, all of that is also licensed. So make sure when you take an image from the internet, from somewhere, check the license. I know some cases of big apps that have had issues because they just took an icon from somewhere that was not completely free and they had to remove it. So there's a lot of open libraries for assets, like this great one we're using, like on Draw. Oh, I just moved this. It's called On Draw. They don't even ask you to give them a shout out, but it's such a good quality that it's gonna come naturally from you to give them the shout out, right? Because it's been a lifesaver for us. Like all our illustrations, all these little cool guys, they all have come from OnDraw. So yeah, make sure to just keep your licenses in check, and you should be good to go. So what else did we miss here in the list? Let's see.
Pending 2021 resolution.
Oh yeah, inviting Kim. Hey, we need to text Kim before February, okay? That's our homework. We're gonna invite Kim to be a guest of the stream to add animated pan for collaborators. Oh yeah, this is this idea we were thinking about. Remember when we saw his design on like the art studio he had?
Yeah, it's almost like an end credits scene where you can thank everybody for their work.
Yeah, it was really nice, the animation he had. So let's see if Kim can join us on that. So anything else you want to add to this about us, or maybe some new idea you got?
No, I think we start working on it. We've got about an hour left, but I mean, what I'm seeing now, like in just kind of starting to picture the layout in my mind, right? Trying to think like, how would you do this in xamarin.forms? I'm thinking just that's a grid, so a couple columns, couple rows, and that collaborators is probably just a horizontal collection view. Maybe same thing for the libraries, also horizontal that just has 2 rows, or maybe libraries is just 1 row. We'll have to see how that looks on the different screen sizes, because we've been burned by screen sizes in the past, well, especially smaller screen sizes. But yeah, I think we start hacking on it. there's certain things like I've created an API or written the code, I guess I should say, for pulling down the collaborators. So like Ricardo was just saying that it'd be great to have a list of the issues that that person solved. I I agree that would be really cool. However, um, there's a little bit more to it. I mean, I guess one thing we could do is like when you tap on that user, it takes you to GitHub in the GitTrends repo for like filtered by their contributions. But I think, well, you definitely have an opinion on this, Luis, as a contributor. I think I would want people directed to my profile over maybe like some either closed issues or closed
Yeah.
PRs, just to kind of like promote you. And
Yeah.
so, um,
Yeah, I would agree with the same thing because we gotta remember that like well you can even see the description here we try to put like the whole purpose of this section here is just shouting out the people behind their contributions, right? So it doesn't matter if it was like because a contribution can even be like fixing a typo or just
right.
fixing some color on it. Like anything counts and anything and everything is valuable, right? So it definitely matters that okay, Brandon made like 60%, 80% of the project, right? But I would say it wouldn't take away from what all the great job, all the amazing people from the community has done as well. Like right, because they have taken time out of their day just to do this free, and yeah, that's the whole point of this section. Just I would say
Yeah.
yeah, if you click on it, take him to their profile so they can learn more about them.
Totally. Yeah, and the other thing I was thinking is not every PR has an issue linked to it.
Yeah,
So like literally you said something about typos a minute ago. It's like somebody just opened a PR because they're like, hey, I fixed a couple typos in the code. Like it didn't necessarily change any functionality. I just spelled a bunch of words wrong, which
yeah,
I tend to do a lot,
exactly.
or at least in code. Like
Yeah, we
any,
have established in past streams that we're not the best poets and everything here. So
yeah, until there's a spell check that works with variable names.
yeah,
Oh well. Although what's funny, man, is like I wouldn't say burned myself, but I've lost some minutes of productivity where I instead of like copy and pasting a variable name, I just typed it out again, and like
yeah,
IntelliSense just doesn't show anything. I'm like, what? I know I made this variable, and then like I have to jump to that class, and like it's like, oh, I spelled it wrong, and like I spelled it wrong, like the second vowel I did an I instead of an O or something silly like that. Where so as soon as I started typing it out, like IntelliSense just disappeared. It's like, nope, no clue what you're talking about. But
yep.
that
So
happens a lot.
yeah, I don't know if you want to do this or just go straight to the code. I'm basically giving them
Yeah.
a visual cue of what we're thinking on how to composing the SAML, right? I mean, not the SAML, right? The
C sharp.
view. Yeah, because we're
Uh,
using C sharp here.
yeah, I think the rows are pretty self-explanatory. The columns will probably be the trickier part because that
Yeah.
watching stars and forks, those little like those need to be columns. So you almost need like a
Yep. So I was thinking something like maybe 4 columns, right? To do this. And then this two can
that's
like
I
span.
was just thinking about that one too. Yeah, it's
Yeah. And then this obviously is like spanning. Well, yeah, we can do the first one right, like this, all the way like that.
yeah.
Um,
Wonder how we do that. The view on GitHub request feature button. Because there's gonna be 4 columns going across, but they're
yep.
not even.
Yeah, so I would say like this is like around 40% or something. So we can do it like a percent here. And then these are like absolute. No, not absolute. I would say, yeah,
Yeah, I would give them absolute.
yeah. Because this one
Or I
is
guess
gonna
they
be a
could
bit big.
be relatives or proportional. So star. Yeah, actually, star is probably better. Um,
Mhm.
Actually, probably all of them should be proportional, right? Like if the GitTrends logo column is about 40%,
Mhm.
then um, we'll make the other columns proportional. But um, I mean, we'll figure it out. So worst case scenario, um, we make that first column 50%,
Yeah.
and then the watching stars and forks are a third each of the remaining 50%.
Mhm.
Uh, and then it's easy for the view on GitHub and request feature buttons. But
Oh, and remember we have this lines here, right? So this is another tricky thing that we can solve really easily. And you want to see how I would do it?
I sure
Basically,
do.
just choop, and there it's solved.
Yeah, it's like we've done that in a couple other places. It's like a one
Yeah,
pixel column.
yeah, a 1 pixel column. Yeah, because we want to keep these details, but we don't want to complicate drawing out this template, right? We want to like keep them consistent because it's the same thing 3 times. So that simplifies it way more. So yeah, it will be actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns.
And I will say the beauty, and we'll jump into it now. Let me go ahead and pull up my screen. Actually, let me take a. Can you zoom out just a little bit? I'm gonna grab a screenshot of what we have.
Yep.
Let me go. Let's see. This. Got it. Thank you. Oh shoot! Did I just delete it? No. Okay, I still have it.
All right. Do you want me to switch to your screen now?
Yeah. Let me go ahead and pull up
Okay. Let me say
old Visual
this.
Studio. Boop.
Yeah.
And
then
then
we
let me
go
know when
from
you can see it.
Okay. Let me add it to the screen. And yep.
Right
There
on.
you go. We can see your screen now.
All right, let's get rid of some of these notification apps so that they don't
Oh,
bother us.
go ahead and tap on the hide button at the bottom.
Oh, yep. Boop.
Perfect.
And I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and just run it real quick because I know, oh man, months ago, I floated out the About page. Um, so just to see what's going on right now. So right now the About page is, okay, it was just the collection of contributors. And okay, so we have the logic here for when you tap a contributor that it opens their GitHub URL. And okay, this is the data template for them. Okay, so we got a little bit of work done so far, which is nice, but we're gonna be redoing a lot of this. All right, so
Oh, I
this
just
is what
noticed I
we're
was
working
muted.
with.
I was
No
saying
worries.
that it is a good start though, because we already have like the data of the collaborators there, and you did the part of like creating the models and all of that. That is like repetitive work, right?
Yeah, and so that's like in the about view model. We already have like that's what I said. I already wrote this. I guess I don't want to call it back end code because it's not running on the server, but it's not on the front end of the app. But anyways, the code to pull down all the contributors and then also order them. Figure out order them by contribution count. See how that looks. We can always change that later. But that kind of, well, maybe kind of gamifies it. So somebody will
Yeah.
want to be like, oh, I want to be first on the list.
I'll start submitting PRs for typos. Like I gotta find 10 typos and I gotta do 10 PRs.
Just obnoxiously start submitting pull requests.
Yeah.
And we got to add in the about page back here. Let me do that first because without that button, then I can't I can't view the about page. So I want to say that was just something I commented out for the release.
Yeah.
And it sure is. Boop. And there we go. Because yeah, if anybody's curious, this was going to be in version 2, the version that's in the App Store today. But I found a bug. I found a bug that if you contributed to organizations on GitHub, so like me working at Microsoft, I contribute to the docs a lot. And but to contribute to the organization Microsoft Docs, I need to authenticate through Microsoft. So I literally need to log in with my work account and password to do that. And when I connected my GitHub account to GitTrends, when I just launched the app and say connected to GitHub, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be like flooded with Microsoft or Microsoft Docs repos. And plus, I don't think Microsoft would want me connecting to that through the app anyways. But so what I found was if you were in that scenario where you were contributing to an org and you hadn't approved the org or requested access to the org through GitTrends, then it would just error out every time. It'd be like, well, can't get the data from GitHub. And so I found that bug before or while we were still working on version 2. And I was like, you know what? This is a pretty big bug and I want to get this bug fix out there. And we already had everything else done in version 2 except the about page. So it made a lot of sense to say, hey, let's defer the about page work to version 2.1. Let's get this bug fix in there, along with all the other awesome work we did with being able to favorite a repo, being able to see your star history. And so we kind of punted the about page a little bit. But there it is. So let me, before I forget, I should commit that code. Uncomment about page in settings page. Boom.
I think I found another punishment we should write down. If you go back to the settings page, because this only happens in iOS, you see the notch at the bottom of the device. It almost covers up the text, so maybe we need to give a little bit more margin from the bottom, no?
Yeah, no, it's a good catch. I wonder, what phone do I have? I have the Pro Max. This is more for me. Because I don't think I've seen it, but it might just be because I use the 11 Pro Max with a bigger screen.
Yeah.
But we can let that pop up in a second. So, oh yeah. So let me launch that app again. And we can see what we had for the about page. There it is. All right, so here's all our contributors. And if I tap on Pure Ween, should take us to his, there we go, there's Shane.
Nice.
Yeah, I think I like that for now. We'll see as we're rolling, like, I mean, that link could take us anywhere. So just like we were chatting about earlier, like it could show their contributions to this repo, but yeah, I don't know, like if I'm Carrie or if I'm Gerald, like I think I would want people to go to my GitHub profile, because then you can see like all the other awesome things that Gerald's created and kind of get some shine a spotlight on their repo, right? Like, hey, Gerald. Wow, he's actually got a really nice GitHub profile.
He has a README. Have you tried that? I know it was released like a couple months ago, but I've not played around with it.
No, I haven't done anything.
Yeah.
Oh no. The simulators are fighting each other.
Yeah.
Get over there.
But yeah, I've seen really interesting READMEs people have made in GitHub now.
Yeah, mine just looks like this. And so I do have some pinned repos here, and these are mostly like libraries I've created, like async await best practices. That's a new Git package. Or GitTrends is obviously the app we're working on now.
Yep.
I love .NET. I'm sorry. No, I do love .NET, but I love GraphQL.
Yeah.
So I wanted to promote that on my page. And then I think I've got, the other GitHub or the other NuGet package, GitHub API status here.
Hey, we already have 5 stars on that one. Nice.
Whoop, whoop. Yeah. And it's a super niche repo. I don't expect a lot of people to use it, but yeah, if you ever want to get around or understand the GitHub APIs and you want to do it in one line of code, you're good to go. All right. Well, here's the Pro Max also showing that we are too close to the bottom. So noted. I have no excuses to fix it now because that's the phone I use.
Yep.
All right. So yeah, let's get to work. Let's, how should we do this? I should probably do this. There we go.
Nice.
All right. So I'm going to say that we don't do a scroll view yet. I'm gonna let's do something like this. Let's take that collection view and kind of comment it out for now.
Yep.
Because that may or may not be useful. Although that code's also committed to GitHub. I could probably just blow it away and just look at the history. But anyways, we want to make a grid.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to do a grid. Probably before we define the grid, though, we should define the rows and columns.
Yep.
Or at least name them. And this is one of the things I love about the C# markup extensions. So if you're wondering what's going on right now, like why are we using XAML? Long story short, I've just never used XAML. I'm a C# developer. I never really saw a reason to use XAML because you don't have to. Everything you can do in XAML, you can do in C#. Yep. Plus, there's also some performance benefits. There's also some IntelliSense benefits. There's some just refactoring and maintenance benefits to using C#. But if you're already using XAML and you love it, great, stick with it. But this is one of the reasons I love using C# because you can name rows and columns, and then you can add your UI to these specific named rows. And so instead of just saying like row 0 is 10 pixels high and row 2 is star and row 3 is auto, you can actually say things like the first row should probably be, we'll call that title. The next row should probably be description. Let's see, this next row we're looking at down here. This
Stats.
is, I like that. Stats. Maybe we call that GitHub buttons. Ooh, action button sounds good.
Yep.
Because maybe we have another button later.
Yep.
Now, here, we probably should have a separate row for the title, the description again.
Yeah.
Technically, you can use formatted strings and spans. That could be, this could be one row, but we already have, I guess like the title and description could also be one row too, but there's no performance problem for adding rows. When it comes to using grids and xamarin.forms, you will get performance problems when you use auto. So like if you don't set a pixel value or a point value for the height or the width, and instead you say auto, well then that column or that row has to resize anytime the content inside of it changes. So if you have any like dynamic UIs, then you're going to have all sorts of performance problems when you're using auto.
Yeah,
and
because all those calculations are running each time you modify something. So
it's really heavy. I was actually chatting. We have there's a Xamarin Slack that anybody can join. It's just if you just search like Xamarin Slack and on the Googles, then you'll probably see the link to join it. But yeah, somebody gave a recommendation of like, oh yeah, just use a stack layout inside of your grid. And I was like, whoa, no. Like, don't do that, because you never want to put layouts inside of layouts. That's how you.
No.
That's also how you get performance problems, because then the stack layout has to resize itself, and then if that row or that column is also using auto, then that's going to resize itself, and that's going to resize every other column, and it's a mess. So don't use auto. Don't nest layouts inside of layouts. Grids should be nice and flat, just one layer.
Because we also have to remember that when you're doing your UI design, right, you're doing your page, this is actually a tree behind it. So the more you add layouts inside of layouts, the bigger the depth of your tree is going to be, right? So that's, if you want to analyze it a little bit more like theoretically, you know that the bigger the tree, the bigger the performance to traverse it, right? So, and that's the same way. If you do a modification at the bottom, everything is gonna ripple all the way to the top, right? And so that's horrible. Don't do it. But another good benefit of having, let's say, the title in its own row, for like the collaborators, the library, I would say is flexibility, right? Because right now we're doing this design and we said, okay, I'm only gonna have the collaborators title there. But what if I wanted to add a button at the same level of the title? If I add it with span, then it would give me a little bit of trouble, right? I could certainly use the columns, but let's say I wanted to use, like I wanted to do something in that same row. In this span, maybe is, because I have the, how can I say this? So the width of the description is not the same width of the title. So if you notice the image we have there, the description actually spans like almost onto the last column. So if I want to add a button and I have my collaborators and my description in the same string with a span, that means wherever I put the title, collaborators, it has to span all the way to the 5th column. Because the description, if not, the description is gonna be bigger and like, you know, because it's not gonna have a space. So if we keep it like that separate, the collaborator's title can be in the 1st column, let's say, and then I can put a button in the 5th column and maybe span it to the 6th, and you can manage, right? You have more flexibility like this. It's not tied between each other.
Yeah. And so what I'm doing now, I just basically gave a row for every, or gave a title for every row and column. And what you'll see me doing now is defining them. So again, instead of saying like row 0 or column 0 is 0.4 stars, we can just do it all in code by just saying like column.icon is, and we were going to give it 40%. So we'll call that 4 stars. And then, let's see, does that make sense? Because that'll be 4 stars, and we have 3 things for 6 stars. So that's 2 stars each. Yeah, I think that'll work. I try to think of this all.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 things, not 3. Remember the little dividers?
Yep. Yeah. But those won't be
those
stars. So it will be, absolute. And so that's absolute grid length. And I'm just going to say 1 for now. We'll see how that looks. But anytime I use star, I try to think of it out of 10, out of 100, out of 1. It makes it easier for my brain to think about it. So when we said 40%, I'm going to say that's 4 stars. And then I'm going to say watching stars and forks are each 2. And so 4 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, 10. We'll see how it turns out. I will say, for anybody that is wondering why I'm not using hot reload, that is the one downside of doing everything in C#. So you XAML people got me on that one. There's no getting around that.
Yeah.
XAML folks get hot reload today. Us C# folks will get hot reload in, we'll say, a couple months with
Yeah.
fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So that's just it's just a result of how XAML works, but compared to C#, where XAML is interpreted at runtime, whereas C# is compiled ahead of time. And so to get XAML hot reload working in xamarin.forms was, I'm not gonna say it was easy. It definitely wasn't. But it was the lower hanging fruit of the two, because you could already interpret XAML at runtime. And so to take that existing paradigm and then just essentially interpret the XAML you're writing as you're writing it, like, okay, not too bad. And then you can focus on, all right, like, how does the simulator do this? What's the code that interprets all this, and how often to refresh it? Like, all those details can get ironed out. Whereas with C#, to get C# hot reload working, the first thing the team had to do, and they have since done, is make a version of Mono that's interpreted at runtime. So they had to create a whole Mono interpreter. Basically, think about that. Like, they rebuilt Mono from the ground up just so C# code could be interpreted at runtime. That's insanely challenging, and kudos to them. That's why I don't blame anybody for the fact that C# hot reload isn't a thing yet. And so
Yeah, and it makes total sense, because the whole point at first was to do the proof of concept of the idea, right? And if you have two POCs that you can do, you're obviously gonna go with the first one that is gonna give you the feedback from your users faster, right? Because if, let's say, they added hot reload, and maybe the idea they have initially was not completely what the developers needed. If you started with the C# one, you did all this work. Obviously, you're not gonna deliver as fast as you did with the XAML one, but also you're losing the quick feedback you were gonna receive to maybe perfect it even more, which is what I guess they have achieved with the XAML hot reload, right? They found all this good input, like, and taking advantage of all the events that were happening at that time as well. So I definitely support the decision they did as well. Like, I would not have chosen like going with the C# hot reload first, because you would have lost so much good input.
oh yeah, just the like, the team's still working on it, and it's been a couple years. So it's kind of one of those things. The industry, the market was demanding hot reload, and rightfully so. Like, if you were to use Flutter has hot restart, hot reload. React Native has hot reload, and a lot of that is just because of how they're designed. Like, like, JavaScript is already interpreted at runtime. Like, if you've ever done web development with HTML and JavaScript, you know that you can see it all live. So they got to take advantage of that, kind of like as a sneaky little feature, just because of the language. But oh yeah, like, Xamarin we would have been burned at the stake had we not had anything to compete with that.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see it now, and analyzing like that. Like, you can see also how the PR, like marketing, takes advantage of that, right? So they just, I would say, in that time when Xamarin still hadn't come out with the hot reload and stuff, a lot of the talk around was like, guys, you have so long with Xamarin, and these people just came out and they already have hot restart and all these cool little toys, right? But they did not mention, okay, they have hot restart because their language is interpreted in runtime, right? So it's like, you're telling me to have hot restart, but do you realize how much work we have to put in to replicate what that language has from out of the box, basically, right? So
yeah, man, it's funny, like, just reading And again, like the complaints are justified, but if you're gonna complain about something, again, that's fine. But if you're really, really gonna like complain about this and be like, this is a total deal breaker, then if you're gonna go that far and like start writing blog posts about why Xamarin's terrible because it doesn't have hot reload, it's like maybe you should understand the bigger picture a little bit, because a lot of people look really silly, and it's just like, like, do you know how JavaScript works? Like that's just like they didn't do anything for it. So like the argument for there's been so many weird arguments, man. And, and honestly, for anybody watching, like, if you want to use Xamarin, great. If you're a C# developer, yes, you should absolutely use Xamarin. But if you're a JavaScript developer and you've never touched C#, go use React Native. There's nothing wrong with doing that. And if you want to use Flutter and like, go for it. Like that's not a problem. But people just going wild, just like, how could this be even possible? Like, like you said, like Xamarin's been around for 10, 15 years and you haven't done this yet. It's like, well, there's some huge technical hurdles. And by the way, like Xamarin's open source, you could contribute that if you want. Like, it's not my job. Like, you guys are the ones making a free tool, and I'm just going to be mad about it.
I just want to consume it, and that's it. Okay. I see here in the chat that Ricardo says, I think I will give a try to building an application using only C#. So I think we have another member in the club.
Yes.
That was our secret mission with this live stream, just starting converting everyone from Sabo to C#.
I hope so, man. It's a beautiful experience. I mean, you can even see just how we've defined the rows here. So actually something I was just thinking about is what we should do first is just put a bunch of placeholders in. And so I was going to, I don't know, how do we do this? Maybe just slap a bunch of labels or, let's do that. Let's just slap a bunch of labels on the screen just to see our sizing. Because I was totally guessing, like absolute 30 points. Who knows? Who knows if that's right? And anybody wondering, yes, I'm saying points, not pixels. You can thank iOS and Android for that, because a pixel is really no longer, like, this isn't 30 pixels, because like, for example, I use my phone's the iPhone 11 Pro Max that scales everything by 3x. And so 1 point on an iPhone 11 Pro Max is actually a grid of 3x3 pixels. So I mean, you can call these pixels, but technically they're points because they'll get converted. And Android does the same thing with HDPI, XHDPI, all that nonsense. But let's just slap some labels on the screen because we can do something like give them background colors. So like new label, background color, and we'll just start going down the dictionary here. And this will be GitTrends icon. But more importantly is this. So this will be the rows and columns. So this row will be row.title. And the column is column.icon. And we do not span rows. So let's keep that together. So like row span. That goes 1, 2, 3. Boom. And this right here, this is why I love doing everything in C#. I mean, this just doesn't exist in XAML. You can't have custom names for rows and columns. And here it's very clear how we're laying this all out on the grid instead of
the rows span. No, this is supposed to be a column span, right? Not a row span.
The icon right here. So 1, 2,
okay, that's the icon. I was thinking about the title. My bad.
This will be the
3, and then the 40 we set over there. Yeah, good. Checks out.
Nice. So, same row, but the column will be watching, and then column span. So basically, we're kind of filling this with some dummy data. That'll be, oh gosh, row span. Okay, so
That's
1,
5.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Yep. And the row span should not go there, right?
Whoops.
Yep. There you go.
Good catch.
Perfect.
Copy paste. All right, so whatever color is next on the list, this will be description. That'll be row description. Column, also column watching.
Yep.
Easy.
Same. Good.
You'll be aqua, and then this will be, oh, you know what? There's more rows and columns we didn't see.
Really? Oh, to separate the icon from the...
Yeah, because those
From the
icons in the app, those icons are SVGs.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll be their own column, and then the text.
Yeah, so we need 3 more.
And
so we need... Yeah,
so
3 more.
let's see. So
that will be
rows, 8. So this will be stats title, stats number.
I say
Title.
Ricardo is commenting. He says, I really like the circle images for the libraries. That's a great idea. Like how we laid out the collection of all the libraries. And yeah, we like it too.
I know.
And it was actually quite a debate, right? We first thought to put it like movie credits. And then we were like, maybe like this is gonna be more compact and we can just have all in one screen, right?
Well, it's also not going to be easy. So, like, how do we get those icons? Is what I was thinking about. And probably what I'll end up doing is, I'll probably create an API that, like, basically store all that information on a server on the back end, and then hit that API to pull down the libraries, because I
mean, we can always have it as a static JSON, no? Because this is not gonna change that much. I mean, it's only gonna change when we change it. So but then we're gonna have to be remembering to go update that.
that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, if we, for example, if we add in a new library and then forget to update the libraries in the app and it's all hard coded, then you have to push an app update out just to add a library.
Oh, no. I didn't mean putting it on the app. I meant, I know you're saying like having a backend to like call that information. I was saying, we could have it like somewhere in the backend and just have that JSON hard coded there, and we can just update it with the new library and call from the app that it could either be that API, right? And that's gonna give us the information, as you're saying.
Yeah, and that'll probably be the best way to go about it. But we'll see. That's not a concern I'm having right now for drawing up the UI. But yeah, if there's a way to do it dynamically, I'd prefer to do it dynamically. And I mean, I'm doing something similar with Sync Fusion, because Sync Fusion requires a license, and I hate how they do this, but I also understand it. But every time you update the Sync Fusion NuGet package, you have to use a new license for Sync Fusion, which is it's so annoying and so frustrating. And so what I do there is, I just have all that saved on a server in Azure. So I've got a bunch of license numbers and their corresponding values. So like when you launch the app just will see what version of Syncfusion am I using. Then it'll go to the API I've written and say, hey, I'm using Syncfusion version whatever, like 18.2.4.308. Give me the license for that. And then the API will return the license. And so I'll probably do something similar here with these libraries. And so like when the app launches, it can just do some assembly scanning, and that's slow, but we can offload that to the background since the about page doesn't appear when you first launch the app. So we've got a couple seconds to work with before the user gets to the about page. They would have to go to the settings page, then they'd have to go to the about page. So we've got some time to do this in the background where I can have this app do basically a scan of all the assemblies, and those will be what are displayed. But then the icons are stored on my back end. So the app will just look for the icons on the back end, and if it's not there, we'll just put a placeholder or something.
Yep.
But that's kind of what I'm thinking. It's a little bit over architected, but it's also the most extensible, which will be
and then it's
helpful.
Less headache for the future as well. Like if you want to extend this in the future, it's gonna be way better to have it like this than have it static. Because right now we're doing it, but I'm sure if in the future we have other features to do, it's gonna be kind of annoying just to going back to modifying this static thing just to update it for the sake of updating it. Yeah.
Right. And like the process for just pushing out app updates, like it's not quick. It's not just like, oh, I did it. Boom. Like there's always this manual process. Like no matter how well you automate your DevOps pipelines and all that fun stuff, like you're always going to have to go to the App Store and click the website a couple times and like add your review notes and so
definitely,
if we can save some time by avoiding an update because we forgot to add one library, I'm in.
Having to just modify the code because you want to add an image and a name of a library, it's hard. And it's
that's what it's like. I really don't want to do that.
This applies to everything.
Can I do that later?
If you guys are working on a project and you have some feature that you're seeing has kind of the same stripes, I would say, right? If you see a feature in your app that is kind of similar to what we're explaining, try and architect it because it's going to be a headache to maintain. Little piece of advice we can take from all our discussion from the 5 minutes. Yeah.
Oh, man. So, I added a couple more rows and columns there to account for these. We'll see how it all shakes out. I mean, this is always where, every time, like, you're gonna forget something.
Yep.
But then the nice thing about doing it like this is it'll be very obvious what we missed.
Yep.
Because something like this watching label will appear like down here, and you're like, oh, whoops, that was wrong.
And seeing us writing all these background colors, just I don't know why, but I have a little voice in my head, which is Steven. He's like, I even have the debug rainbow in your screenshot, and you're putting all this background layer. Hey, Steven, this just feels right now, okay?
He's not wrong.
Yeah.
But the problem is you need to put
something
in there because how do we know that? So the debug rainbows will show us that we have our grid set up properly, but it won't show us that we have our children in the grid properly. So and probably we should turn that on when we launch this out. Oh, I forgot the separator. We're getting there.
So the separator goes after the watching. Yeah, there.
Watching separator. That
Oh,
probably
and
should.
the cool thing you're gonna see, guys, once Brandon finishes adding this code, is that let's say how it always happens, right? You decided that maybe the description of the collaborators section you wanted to be under all of the collaborate like under the collection list for the collaborators, and change a little bit the design in terms of the rows and the columns. Well, since we have it with an enum, we can literally just swap the places of the columns in the enum, and that's gonna literally switch for you in the design the place of that of that row, right? Because remember in the back, your enum has numbers to it. So if you move it, it's gonna basically define the number for that row each time because we did not define a number. We left it automatic. So as soon as you declare it, it's gonna take that number. So you can control the whole grid just by modifying the enums. It's not a good practice completely in our stream. Why? Because we are taking we're guiding ourselves by Brandon's recommendation, which I always support. It's maintaining your code organized as you declare it, right? So if in your num you have the row for the collaborators as the third row, and then you say, okay, now I don't want it there. I want to put it as the fifth row. Also, where you're declaring it here in this part, like declaring the label to be on that on the fifth column, you should move that piece of code to where it should be, right? So it should be after the piece of code that declares the content for the fourth row.
Yeah, and I'll say like all of that is really just so it's easier on easier to read the code.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could add these children in whatever order you wanted to. The
Mm-hmm.
only caveat there is if you put the same child in the same grid, they'll stack on top of one each other. So if you
Yeah.
put like a label down and then put an icon in the same spot, the
Mm-hmm.
icon will appear over top of the label. But as long as everything's in its own grid, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
these children could be added in whatever order you want. We actually take advantage of that for another part of the app where, um, like, we allow you to sort by different things, and if you sort by certain things, then certain data appears and certain data doesn't. And so we are taking advantage of the fact that you can add children whatever order you want to the grid,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, for something like this where everything on here is, for all intents and purposes, static data, when you come in to edit this grid, it's going to be easier on you to go like basically top down, top to bottom, left to right, just like you would read a book, at least in
Yeah.
um, the we'll say the left to right world. And
Yeah.
so yeah, you'll appreciate life a little bit more if you
Yeah.
handle it,
Definitely
put
easier
everything in
to
order.
scan. And
Yeah.
I would say that's one of our, I mean, I would say traits of working on this project. Like, if you guys want to contribute, definitely one of the benefits you're gonna have is that the code is well organized and really clean. Like, you go into the file and you can read everything, and everything has appropriate spaces. Like, you see the row and the column, and random did not just like leave it next to the bracket. Like, he put a little space there. He also, when he gonna put the comment on there, he's put at least two spaces, because even if at first it may seem like, oh, that's cool, but that's just styling, it actually matters, because remember, you have the app keeps growing, keeps growing. So when you come back in 2 months or 3 months and you see all this code together and all over the place, it's gonna be really hard for you to get back on track on what was happening on this file, right?
Yeah. Thanks. That's it's a big pet peeve of mine.
Yeah.
People say, oh, "I'll clean that up later." It's like you're
Yeah.
doing it right now. It'll take you half a second just to keep everything organized as you go. And
Mhm.
since you brought it up, I'll give a shout out to there's an answer on Stack Overflow that I found like way back in the day when I first started writing C# code. and I bookmarked it because I kept coming back to it. So this order of items and classes. Somebody basically asked the question like, how do I order everything in each class, right? Like, do I do like fields first, then the constructor? And this was the first ever answer I found. I wonder how old this is. Let's see. 2008. So C# was
Nice.
new. Actually, when did C# come out? That's probably right. So very, very old answer. But yeah, they basically say, or the recommendation here was like, here's the order to put everything in. So constant fields, constructors, blah, 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 blah. And then within each of those, you go public internal, protected private. And then within each of those is static, then non-static. And between each of those is read-only to non-read-only. And so I just kind of subscribed to this back when I started writing C# and just always follow it. And you don't have to follow this exact order, but you should have a order that your code follows for your project. And so what's really nice is like, well, that's a bad example. Let's pull up an example with some more code in it. So like this follows this to a T. So like the first thing is, well, fields and constant fields. And then inside of those, it's read-only. Inside of that, it's static to non-static. So I have my read-only static fields, my read-only fields, my fields, and then my constructor, and then my event handler. So it just follows this order, and it's really nice because I can open any class in this project and I know exactly where to look. Like if I know that's a method and I know it's a private method, then I know exactly where to scroll to in the code. Whereas oh man, I hate it. I hate opening up code and like there's methods and constructors and properties and fields, and they're all just scattered, which yes, that works. You can compile that. The code will run. C# will be happy. But holy cow, is that hard to is that hard to wrap your head around? And then you get the people that also are just like do like bullshit variable names. Like variable names are free. So true. make them super descriptive. Like where's another example? There you go. So something I like to do, and again, my personal preference, this is the gospel of Brandon, but I give it a name. So like this is my login row, and then I always append what it is. So like this is a tap gesture recognizer. So I always append, or I have appended here, a tap gesture to the end. Like if this was a button, I would say login button for my variable name, and just like be as descriptive as you can, because somebody's going to come along and have to read this code behind you. And if you say var b equals new button, it's like, what is B? It doesn't make any sense. So
no, and I also love the ones that just, I don't know who have told them this, but they do they shorten everything. Button, they shorten it. The name BTN. Like row RW. Like, dude, it's one more letter and you can write row, please.
Right? Like I understand, I mean, back in the day, and I just realized I'm doing row span, it's not column span. Oh no. I recognize that like I'm also old enough to remember these days, but like the size of your app, like when you compile it down, those variable names go with the compiler. And so like back in the day when computers only had like a couple bytes of RAM, you had to optimize the heck out of everything, but you don't have to do that anymore. Like exactly. We have like my computer I'm on right now has 64 gigs of RAM, and like I recognize that's way more than average, but even like my iPhone has 4 gigs of RAM. Like that means your app can use at least 3 gigs of memory. And like all that to say, GitTrends I think is 20 megs when you download it from the App Store. Like your variable names will not affect your app size. Just
exactly
be as descriptive as you can, please. And then one last rant: spacing.
Oh like,
make sure to include some blank lines. so that, again, it's just easier on the eyes. It's like the same reason when you write an essay that we have paragraphs. It's so that your eye can follow the line you're reading. When everything has no spacing and it's all together, after a certain number of lines, after, I don't know what the psychology is, or the physiology is, but yeah, after a couple of lines, your eye has trouble moving to the next line that you're reading because it's not sure if you're on the third line, the fourth line, the fifth line, the sixth line, the 20th line. So yeah, think of it like a book. Think of it like if you're writing a novel, or if you're reading a novel, like, would you want all this grouped together? No. So
yeah. And it's literally sabotaging yourself, I would say.
yes, your future self will thank you.
Yeah, because you're like there 5 minutes, like, oh my god, I'm really getting confused, and like everything turns blurry at that point, and you could literally solve that issue. It's not the code; it's just like you need some pattern to it to make it easier on you. Yeah.
Yeah, and all that to say, like, you can be a great engineer. Like, I've seen code written by my engineers here at Microsoft that violate all these, or all of Brandon's credos.
Yeah.
And these are some of the highest paid, smartest engineers in the world doing it. So don't feel bad if you are, but yeah, think about the next person that's going to have to read your code, or selfishly think about yourself. Like, that's what I always think of, like, what can I do today that will help Brandon in the future? And as silly as that sounds, like, I will thank my past self, like, oh my gosh, I am so glad. Like, thank you, Brandon, for helping me today.
Oh, so we have Ricardo here. He has a good bad example of variable names. So this is a question for you, Brandon. What do you think LGBTN variable does? What do you think that variable is for? LGBTN.
That's a large button.
Close, but not quite.
No? LG.
No. So the answer is
right. Is it a button?
It's a button.
Okay, so LG, I got the LG wrong. It's not large.
Yeah, it's not large.
I mean, what else could LG be? LG is a brand. Like, you can buy an LG TV. So that could be it. LG long. Yeah, long could be.
Kind of close. You had
log.
Long has 1, 2, 3, 4 letters out of what it is. No, 5 letters. 1, 2, 3. No, 4 letters. Yeah, you're missing 1 letter.
Longer.
So it's login button.
Oh, login. No, yeah, I never would have.
Yeah, me neither.
Oh man. Let's see. Just went to run the code, and that that about button wasn't working. No, it should be working. We already confirmed it was working. All right, let me run that again. Maybe it's just the simulator.
Did you clean it?
No, I didn't clean it.
Yeah.
Man, back in the day, you had to clean all the time. But
yeah,
it's better. It's better now. But yeah, back in the day, because iOS has this build option that says, boom, enable incremental builds.
Yeah.
And I just ended up turning that off because there were so many times where, like, I would edit my xamarin.forms code, and then it just would pretend like nothing ever happened. It's like, what?
Like, it was so common to do it that for me, I no longer do the run button. I need to be honest. Like, it's just...
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just in my mind, like in my brain, it's stapled. So how I run my app, I literally go automatically clean, I rebuild, and I run it. And if I see something is kind of sketchy, I just go and do the same thing, but go now to the folders and erase everything. Because we were so used to do that. But I know now there's been so much improvements that you don't need to do it. But it's just like, I don't know. It's a little game, I guess, for me to build it. Why are we crashing? Oh.
All right. So columns behind the enum's name, value, sequence. So it's I will say that the error message isn't great. It doesn't tell you like this is why it crashed, but it's probably because I defined something. Let me do this. Let's bring these a little closer together. Because let's see. So just make sure I didn't miss a row. So row title, description, stats title, stats number, action buttons, collaborator title, collaborator, description, then collection, libraries title, description, collection. That looks pretty good. Icon, watching title, watching separator.
Oh,
There it is. So that should be stars icon, and then let's just star separator first. Okay.
Good.
Yep. I mean, nothing you can do about that except write good code. I wish I could blame somebody else for that, but
Hey,
furiously copy and pasting.
yeah. We're right on time as well.
I know we have like 2 minutes left. This should be the big reveal.
Yeah.
And what I'll probably do is go ahead and commit this. And because right now I'm working in this branch, this about page branch. Mm-hmm. So since we're not in the main branch, we can put some I don't want to say half-baked code. Code that's still being formed and shaped.
Yeah, because we're in the branch of that feature, so yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, and plus I don't want to lose this. Like the rows and columns will be the same, assuming I nailed it, which I probably didn't. Rarely do I get these grids and rows perfect on the first try.
Yeah.
I mean, we already saw that I didn't, but ooh, okay.
Nice. Oh, you know what? We missed something.
How'd you see that already?
Stats number. Where is the stats number?
I don't see our. Oh yeah, yep. Do we even have a row for that? Stats number row.
I think
but
we didn't assign anything to it.
We didn't assign anything to it. Dang it.
Yeah, but everything else is perfect.
I don't see our buttons, our view on GitHub button.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see.
No,
where's
request feature.
Buttons?
Oh, it's the same.
Oh, I'm using the wrong column here. I put in the icon column instead of... I should probably be watching separator. And then, yeah, we totally missed... Well, yeah. I totally missed. The stats. So we got stats titles, and then I skipped straight to the action button. So
yeah.
Nice. I don't mind going a couple minutes over.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, we started a little bit over the time because of 2021 and our tech issues.
None of our stuff was working.
Yeah.
I was like, my camera's rebooting. I need more time. So this is watching number, and this is stats number column. Watching icon, it should span 2.
Yep.
Oh, we're so close. All right, so then...
And center, no?
Yeah, later, man.
Let's just get
I just want to fill
screen.
some rows. All right, so this one, whatever the next color is in the list. Next color.
Oh, wait, so now we need to update all the colors to replicate it. Yeah.
Forks number. Yeah, no, I thought about that, right? Stars number. So the row, so this will be stars icon. It'll still, span 2. And this will be forks icon. That'll still span 2. We fixed the request feature, right?
So we're missing a button here.
Which one? The view on GitHub button?
Yeah. I think we put it on the same one.
it's there. It's just stacked behind request feature.
Yeah. Oh, and you changed the column. So yeah, it's okay, we fixed it.
I think this should do it. We'll have
Yep.
the ugliest UI.
Imagine like
But
ship it. It's done. It's working. We can see the information, okay?
the about page. It's very functional. It's just
Yeah.
not very visually appealing.
I mean, that could be like a little Easter egg. You imagine like the whole app looks so polished and nice, and then you go to this one section in the app that no one really goes to like a lot. And they're like, okay, let me see the about. Wait, what just happened here?
Like, 1 star. Oh, I wonder. Nah, I was gonna say we should add a button to say like give us a star in the App Store, but nah.
Yeah.
Well, I've already got code in there.
Wait, don't we have
Where-
the review code that we're gonna add that Samir did?
Yep, that's actually I merged Samir's PR, so shout out to Samir, thank you. Yeah, I merged that PR, and that is added in version 2.1. So
Yep.
the release or this about page work will also be 2.1. So it's in here. It's in this branch right now as we're talking. But let's see. Ooh, okay. So icon, title.
We're missing
Description.
something. Collaborator description, and that's it. The
Don't
separators.
see. Yeah, the separators look like something's wrong there.
Yeah, separators and collaborators collection.
Let's see. So watching. Oh, we do have a watching separator. Oh, it's there. Just super light. Okay.
Oh yeah, it's because of the color. Yeah, I see the other one as well there.
Okay,
Nice.
so watching number, or I'm sorry, that'll be the icon, that'll be the title. The separator's
Title.
there, you just can't see it. Oh, the separator should have a row span. That's what looks weird.
Oh,
the separator needs
yeah.
to span down past the numbers.
Yep.
Ooh, so close, so close. Row span should just be 2, right? What are my rows? Stats title, stats number, then the button. So yeah.
Yeah, 2.
So where'd it go?
And the collection for the collaborators we're missing.
Wait, row action buttons. Oh, jeez. My eyes are starting to cross now. Get out quick. Okay, here we go. All right, row span for the separator. Watching separator. Row span 2. Okay, sorry.
And 2.
You said
Yeah.
something and I totally missed it.
No, it's okay. We
you
also
know
need
what?
the collaborator description, not the collection. Yeah.
The icon needs to span another row as well.
Yep. Because remember, we
So-
forgot about the numbers. So for us, it was perfect if the numbers were not there. But
Yeah, that collaborator description
Description.
collection. Awesome catch. What do we do here? Row span. Oh, I said row span. That should be column span. All columns.
oh yeah.
I don't even think that's what we were just talking about, but let's see. Collaborator, so that should expand across. Then below that should be description. Oh, yep, there it is.
Yeah.
Collaborator collection. Oh, that also makes sense why you see collaborator come all the way down.
Oh yeah.
But I
That's
think
true.
that's it, man. I think this
Got it.
this build
It's gonna be the final.
about to change the world. 2021.
Yep.
Watch out.
GitTrends is starting with a good foot on 2021.
We're coming for you. That's right. We fixed a bug this morning that's coming to the App Store as soon as it gets reviewed by Apple and Google, which annoyingly takes a couple days, but
Yep.
we'll stop deleting your favorite selection in the background. Whoops, my bad.
Yep.
And then I don't know. I mean, this about page, now that we have it fleshed out like this with the drawing,
Mm-hmm.
it's really just a matter of doing it.
Adjusting. Yeah. tuning in the
Yeah.
spacing and adding the collection data, and that should
Yeah. Honestly, I think
be good.
the hardest part will be these libraries. I just know I'm gonna over engineer that. It'll be great. But
Yeah.
I'll over engineer the libraries. I already did the work on the back end for collaborators. And then the only other thing that it should be tricky is the spacing for these, because
Not
what I
really.
might do, I could add another column right here, but we'll see. We'll see. Because you can see how the view on GitHub and the request to feature are aligned in their columns, which this looks great, by the way. I think we nailed it right here. Although,
Yeah.
description needs to go all the way to the
Ooh,
edge.
quick question. Why is view on GitHub and request feature not 50-50? Are they 50-50?
They are not, because we don't have columns that are 50-50.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because I define the columns like this based off of basically this row. But
Yeah.
what I could do is I could probably do some magic with margins so
Yeah.
that when we add the buttons in, when we add the buttons in, they'll be spaced. Excuse me again.
Yep.
When we add the
No
buttons in, they'll
worries.
be spaced evenly. But if nothing else, I could add another column. But let me see one more thing. So that Git trends. I wonder why that Alice blue color isn't showing up, or is it? Oh, it is. It's just
Oh,
very
yeah.
light,
It's just really light. Yeah.
and it doesn't span enough columns. So we need,
Yeah, because we added three
yeah,
more
one,
columns.
two, three. So that should be 8.
What did you just count there?
The separator column,
Oh, yeah.
the icon column, and then the description column.
I was like, he's counting three, but where's the three? Yeah, yeah.
Watch
It's
out.
that it's so thin. It's so thin that you miss it.
Yeah, right.
The
And
separator.
then I think this will be good. I'll probably tweak. Well, I'll definitely tweak. We're gonna tweak all of this, but
Yeah.
the layouts there, I can see it now. And what's great about this is for like something I noticed, like the collaborators title, that row needs to be bigger because the font size isn't going to fit in whatever I guessed at. I guessed at 10 points. I should have known 10 points is going to be too small. But yeah, we'll just play around with the font sizes and the spacings. But I will say the hardest thing on a xamarin.forms content page is to get the layout done,
Yeah.
especially with like a fairly complicated grid like this.
Mhm.
And
That's true.
I'm feeling good.
Yeah,
The
I think we did some really good progress today. Like
Yeah, the
we
only
did the
thing.
recap, we got up to speed with our attendees. So everybody is on what we're gonna be doing the next couple of weeks. So
Yeah, look at that. Yeah, so
yeah.
like
Oh,
it's like
nice.
the collaborate title should definitely be bigger. The description needs to be bigger. The
Yeah.
collection needs to be bigger. Same with the library stuff, but and probably
Yeah.
the buttons need to, yeah. If these buttons need to be tappable, then they need to be more than, what do you give them, 35? Oh, seems small for 35.
Yeah. So
But
I
I'm just
would
guessing.
say next session what we can do, because I know we already did like almost all the work for the mockup. So I don't think we should take the whole 2 hours of the next session just for mocking up. I believe maybe half an hour or 1 hour could be um, us creating like all the taking out from the design all the styles and just defining, knowing what are the numbers for the titles, what is the spacing we need, how are we gonna solve the issue with the buttons, and once we have all that, basically all our style defined, we can use the last hour to start implementing those styles, right? Or maybe we could also talk. Maybe the last hour we could use to over engineer the library part.
Yeah, I mean, what we're gonna have to do, yeah. So for the UI, we will want to define the font weight and the font sizes. So like,
Yep.
what is bold, what is regular, what is medium.
Yep.
If we can define that, um, I don't know if we need to go as far as defining the padding between everything. I think that'll kind of fall out on its own in a good way, or like fall into place on its own. Those buttons, we have code where we have GitHub buttons elsewhere in the app that we can reuse. And so,
and we can maybe use the the sizes we're using for the stats in the repo list, because we have the same thing. We have the icon and the stat, so we can see how much spacing we gave there, and that should work here as well for the icon and the title.
And SVGs can be kind of funny. Depending on what SVG library you use, they sometimes just automatically fill and expand to take up that whole piece of the grid.
Yep.
And sometimes they just default to their default size, depending on the library you use. So SVGs can be kind of funny. I think let's define all the font stuff, the font sizing, font weights. We'll see what the SVGs look like when we add them in. The icon should be fine, although those need to be dynamic resources that change when actually everything needs to be, all the colors need to be dynamic, so when you change from light mode to dark mode. But that theming engine's already done. We would just need to put hooks into it to make sure that we're leveraging it. So we're cruising now. This feels good.
So I see it's 8:13. I think we can wrap it up here and basically give thanks to everybody that joined in. I know it's been a really interesting start of the year with everything that's happening. I hope everybody's staying safe and that you're enjoying you're starting to enjoy your 2021. And thank you for tuning in, and see you next Wednesday. Do we have any announcements coming up, Brandon? Things that are gonna events. I know there's one coming up.
What do you have?
What do we have on Monday?
Our event. What's going on?
Let's just plug that in.
So before I plug our event, actually tonight, let me see if I can share. Where's the link? Because there's a Xamarin conference going on in Bengaluru. Which it's going to be great. Like, I looked at the lineup and the speakers. I think it starts at midnight Pacific for me tonight, so maybe 3 a.m. for folks. But let's see. Let me see if I can. Bengaluru conference, Xamarin, Google on the fly. .NET Summit 2020. Boom.
Nice.
Let me. I'll drop this in our chat here in the stream device. Maybe you can share that to the stream. But lots of good stuff coming up in that. And let me see if I can find. You know what? What am I doing? Share my screen. Share this with the world. They're doing good stuff. Just let me know when you can see the screen.
And the stream is live. There it is.
Cool. And actually, probably what's a even better idea. Let's see. Meeting planner. So let's get some real details here for time zone. So like Luis is in Fort Lauderdale, or we'll say Miami, same time zone. Miami. And then this is all. Let's see. So I'm in San Francisco, and let's put this in Indian. Indian Standard Time. Well, actually, how do you spell? Let's see. Bengaluru is not in here. New Delhi. Let's see. Let's make sure I got time zones. Is that IST? Time in. Gonna make me earn it. Time zone. IST. Okay. Boom. All right. So James Montemagno is kicking things off at 10 a.m. IST. 10 a.m. IST is just in a couple hours. So Oh, cool. It's one of those 30-minute time zones. So
Yeah.
11:30 Miami time, Eastern time, 8:30 p.m. San Francisco time. So it looks like I have no excuses but to catch James Montemagno's talk. But all sorts of like, so what's new in Xamarin? I mean, obviously, James Montemagno is talking. You go watch it because
Yep.
it's all going to be good. And then awesome stuff with like .NET and Blazor, real-time web apps with Signal R, lunch break, which is more like probably a nap break for us
Yeah,
on
for
this side of
us.
the world. But yeah, super cool event going on. And so even if you
Oh,
can't watch
nice.
it, they are streaming it to YouTube, which means, or I assume means it'll be recorded on YouTube. So
I see they're also
hopefully you
gonna
can
have
check it.
a Q&A at the end. So yeah, if you guys have any questions you will like answer by MVPs, yeah, go ahead, and I'm sure that event is gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
Let me
So
also
yeah, what's going on Monday?
wait. So I remember another thing before that. Well, it's actually after that. So let's plug first Monday, right? So on Monday, you're all invited to come to the .NET Docs show, where Brandon and I are gonna be talking about Git trends and all the cool stuff we have been doing on the stream. And well, since Brandon started developing the project, and we're gonna be talking all good things about .NET, how we're using it, and how we're leveraging Xamarin for this project, and how we went about redesigning it as well. So let me share here Brandon's screen.
Boom. And we can share that link in the chat too.
Yep.
Yeah, so this will
And
be it's literally us. It's if anything, it's probably a microcosm of this Twitch stream
yeah.
where if you've never seen it, I mean the .NET Doc Show is all about just highlighting cool things being done in .NET. And so what we're going on to chat about is what did we do, right? Like we created this mobile app. It's back end. Everything was created in .NET using Xamarin, Azure Functions, and then I imagine the audience for this probably won't be Xamarin
Yeah.
developers. Like maybe you heard of it. So I kind of see this going like we're gonna talk about Xamarin a little bit. Like what is Xamarin? Like did you know you can make iOS and
Yeah.
Android apps using C Sharp? And then there's a cool thing called xamarin.forms, and then so yeah, we'll talk about the app. We'll talk about definitely the design. We'll talk about the process. So like, how did this app come about? How do you get it in the
Mhm.
app stores? All these fun things. Maybe show off some code. I don't know. We'll kind of see. We'll kind of see
Yeah.
where the conversation takes us. We'll see where the hosts like Myra and Luis will, you know, we'll kind of go where their questions guide us. But
Hmm.
if nothing else, we'll be showing off Git trends and sharing it with the world. Hopefully, we'll get some awesome feedback from people who maybe haven't heard of the app. Maybe they haven't heard of Xamarin. Maybe they didn't know you could do all this stuff. But yeah, Monday morning, so 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, we'll be live.
Yep.
And this is like
And
official Microsoft stuff too.
yeah, it's gonna be really exciting. So the last thing we have for you guys to announce is that starting next Saturday 30th. Let me share my screen here. We're gonna have a .NET Dominicana community workshop. So actually, this workshop is gonna be around Azure for developers, and it's gonna
Cool.
be, yeah, it's gonna be with Angel and myself. And the whole purpose of this workshop is gonna be to get you started with Azure, and get you to the point where you can take both certifications. So basically, the first week, let me zoom this in. Oh,
Thanks. I
yeah.
was like, I wonder what they're talking about.
Yeah. So the first week we're gonna see the whole path of Azure fundamentals, and basically all the basics you need, right, to do the Azure fundamentals certification. We're also gonna give you some good resources you can use to practice and everything. And then the next 4 weeks are gonna be to play around with all the Azure services that we have available, right? So Azure App Service, diagnostics, logging, insights using the keyboard, what is logic apps, and all the fun stuff we have to play there with, right? So it's gonna be there's a drawback, I would say. It's gonna be completely in Spanish. So sorry for the international community, but the Spanish community was requesting us this workshop for a long time, and it's I see it as a good thing because we need more, a lot more tech tech knowledge, I would say, or documentation, right, in Spanish, in this type of event. So definitely, if you want to learn Spanish and you're still interested in Azure, come along. We accept everyone, and we can even teach you a little bit of Spanish. So yeah, we're gonna have that next Saturday. Mhm.
Yeah,
So
and all
to
really
jump,
good things because there's something I've noticed in Azure is once you learn one or two services, so like if you know Azure Functions or if you know App Service or if you know Cosmos, even though they're all very different, like Cosmos is a NoSQL database and App
mhm.
Service is a way to host your web apps or your web APIs. Azure just has kind of a very specific structure to it, and once you understand that structure, then you know where to go to find things.
Yeah,
And so while all of this is like it's going to be a ton of information, it's going to be a lot of really good information.
yeah,
Um, once you kind of get comfortable with the layout in just the Azure portal,
yeah,
like what to click on where, like the nomenclature, right? Like everything in Azure is called a resource. And so
yeah,
when you see things like what's a resource group, well, it's just a grouping of resources, and a resource can be anything. But
yeah,
you that's to me that's the scariest part of Azure is just like
yeah,
understanding the web portal, the nomenclature, and like where do I go to click on things. And
yeah.
once you get that, then everything becomes a lot easier. And if you
Mhm.
want to learn Azure Functions, but maybe you've only used Cosmos, well, the docs are pretty much the same. The portal's pretty much the same. Like obviously you're learning a new code, a new paradigm, a new library, but
Mhm.
to go into it just we'll say cold. So
Yeah,
saying like I've done Cosmos, but I've never done functions. Like you'll be able to figure it out
yeah,
once you just kind of get one or two of these under your belt.
yeah.
And these are all my favorite things too. Like I use app
Definitely.
services. We use Azure Functions for GitTrends because it's super cheap and it's
Yeah.
amazing. Uh, so if you're making free apps that are open source and nobody's paying you money for it, then Azure Functions.
Yeah, and that's something we want to, like, if you notice the last 2 weeks, we want to emphasize and make sure they understand the cost of each service, and like all the different type of storage we have, right? Because for example, GitTrends, we don't have a SQL server. We don't, because we don't need it. Because with Azure Functions, you can literally do everything you need for this app. So this is also going to teach you on how to not overkill the solution you're going to do and also save money, right? Because uh you can solve a problem with so many different ways, but you also need to make sure that the way you're picking is the one that makes more sense. It could be either economic, it could be either implementation time. So yeah, it's gonna be really fun. It's gonna be 4 hours each Saturday. I don't know what I'm gonna do after I finish this workshop. I think I'm gonna take a vacation because we have been
Take a nap.
nonstop. Yeah, but yeah, to join, guys, you have to go to the meetup on .NET Dominicana. You sign up for the event, and once you sign up for the event, we're gonna be sending a link so you can join the teams meeting, and that way it can be interactive, right? You're gonna be able to do all your questions, and we're gonna have little break rooms and collaborate there. So yeah, that's everything we have for today. And yeah, uh, thank you, Brandon, again for always joining and staying here with us in this awesome series we have been working on since last year. And I
That's right.
can't wait. for our event on Monday. And yeah, see you next week, everybody. Bye.